Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Do you ever have a story that you just can't get out of your head?
One that you play the details of over and over with your friends?
Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Claire.
And I'm Susan.
And this is Justice Pending,
a weekly true crime podcast where we discuss tantalizing crimes with more questions than answers.
Some cases go cold because the killer was clever, some because evidence was scarce, and some because nobody had the time to look closely enough.
Today's case is the story of a young mother, a 25-year-old woman working hard to support her daughter, whose life was stolen back in 1991. And for 34 years, her case sat mostly untouched. Her family learned to live with heartbreak, police hit dead ends, and leads dried up.
Until a group of college students, literally doing their homework, opened the door that detectives had been trying to unlock for 3 decades.
Hi, I'm Susan.
And I'm Claire. Welcome back to another episode of Justice Pending.
Today, we're talking about the case of Cynthia Gonzalez. But before we talk about the arrest, before the cold case, the classroom, the breakthrough, we have to talk about the victim.
So in 1991, Cynthia was 25 years old, a young mother, a woman who, by all accounts, was warm, loving, and fiercely protective of her daughter, Jessica, who was just 6 years old at the time.
Cynthia worked as an adult entertainer in Arlington, Texas, which is a job that offered quick cash, but often placed women in vulnerable positions.
And like a lot of young moms juggling bills, childcare, and survival, she did whatever she needed to keep afloat.
All right, so let's set the scene. The last time Cynthia was seen alive was the evening of September 16th, 1991, when she left her Arlington home to meet a client.
When Cynthia didn't return home the next night, her ex-husband reported her missing. Hours later, police found her car abandoned in a residential area on Cedar Springs Terrace. Officers at first suspected a kidnapping.
5 days later, on September 22nd, her decomposing body was discovered in rural Johnson County, shot multiple times and dumped on private land.
Authorities believe she was executed. She wasn't robbed. She didn't look like she'd been assaulted. This was targeted and personal.
But police didn't know just how personal at that time. Not yet.
So let's talk about the investigation in the 1990s, because it's important, not for what was found, but for what wasn't found.
That's right. So detectives learned early on that Cynthia had a friend, a 29-year-old named Janie Perkins, who also happened to be romantically involved with the same man Cynthia was seeing.
Yeah, so in the initial report about Cynthia's murder, Janie Perkins' name is mentioned. She's a friend, an associate. They run in the same circles. So she's one of the people that police are reaching out to try to get answers. And it's kind of the classic, jealous woman setup, right? The idea that they both were interested in the same guy. And of course, you have to look at this woman who was also, a romantic rival. And this idea of, the timing of Cynthia's murder, because they had in their reports that this boyfriend, who's not named, where his name has been kept out of the reports, but this boyfriend had told Janie that he didn't want to see her anymore and that he was going to be with Cynthia.
Classic love triangle. So yeah,
Yes.
I got investigators going, but here's where eyebrows start going up. Janie couldn't provide an alibi for the night Cynthia vanished. She also proceeded to fail 2 voluntary polygraphs. Now they were voluntary, so that's something.
Right.
And on top of that, she told detectives she was glad Cynthia was dead and she'd thought about killing her or having someone else do it. So there's no filter on Janie.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild admission to make to law enforcement.
Yeah, but she didn't do it, right? I mean, that's what
Right.
so she's
That's
like,
what she's
yes, have I
saying.
thought
Yeah.
about it? Yes, was I mad? Yes, did I lose in this triangle war over the guy? Yes. Did I want her dead? Yes, all that. But she's still saying, not me.
Right. So despite all of that suspicious circumstances and conversation, Janie is not arrested. She's not charged. And this case just goes into the background. There is nothing else that law enforcement feels like they can do with that information. And so it just kind of goes on the shelf and it starts to get cold.
That's right. And this is the 1990s, remember, early 1990s. So these detectives really believe that without physical evidence, without DNA, without eyewitnesses, that they didn't have enough to take this to court.
Yeah, and it was interesting to learn that the Arlington Police Department doesn't have a full-time cold case unit. So they didn't have one back in the 90s. They don't have one as we sit here today in 2025. So when active cases pile up, the old ones just sit on a shelf until someone has time to go back through them. But this is an active area in, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And there's no shortage of crimes, new crimes to solve. So this one just sadly did not get attention for many years.
Yeah, it's been decades of silence just until recently. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And Cynthia's daughter, Jessica, who was just 6 at the time of the murder, I mean, those decades for her were filled with pain and questions and, confusion.
Yeah. I mean, you're so young at that age, 6 years old, you're barely in elementary school here, and your mom disappears without a trace. And I think everyone believes that the good guys are going to win, that we're going to find the answers, that justice is going to be served. But it was a long time coming for the family of Cynthia Gonzalez. And so, her daughter has said that she thought this day would never come and that she'd almost given up hope that her mother's murder would ever be solved.
Imagine going your whole childhood and adulthood, really, with
Yeah.
your mother's murder technically still open, knowing there's no cold case unit, no eyes on it, nothing, and going unsolved. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah, no answers, no justice. I mean, she had to have felt forgotten by everyone.
That's right. But guess who didn't forget? A classroom full of criminology students.
Yes.
So let's go to the classroom here. In the fall recently, now of our recording of 2025 at the University of Texas at Arlington, the university launched a new criminology course. And in partnership with the Arlington Police Department, they launched this course together. So top students were given real cold case files to analyze every document, every interview transcript, every note. Talk about free interns.
Yes.
Love it. Love that they did this.
Yeah, so there were 15 students in this class, and they were dedicated to going through everything in the file, thinking about it every which way that they could. And the Arlington Police Department gave them their blessing to do this. They were not holding back any information. They opened up their files to them. This is the kind of collaboration that an investigative journalist dreams of with law enforcement.
Right.
The idea that they could really be partners in looking into this case. And it's important to note that Arlington police had just reviewed Cynthia's case the year before in 2024, and they had reached the conclusion that there was nothing else to pursue. So these students come in and they really rise to the challenge, Susan.
They do. They dive in, not casually. They dive in obsessively. They have fresh eyes. There are 500 plus files. They reconstructed timelines. They cross-referenced interviews.
Yeah, and creating a timeline, it doesn't sound sexy. It doesn't sound like the kind of exciting work that someone wants to do on a cold case, but it is essential. I can tell you from all of the murder cases that I've worked both at CBS News and independently, for Final Days on Earth. You and I do this, Susan, where we go back through and we look at every known data point around a person's death, and then we try to go back and we see what were they doing in the final days of their life. And that's what these students did. And they spent weeks creating this timeline, cross-referencing the interviews, like you said. That's so key because many times these older cases, the interviews have never been transcribed and digitized. So you actually don't know, well, who all talked about the same witness, unless you have gone through and indexed it by hand, which I've never seen done. So, I mean, whenever I get cold cases from police departments and they allow me to go through all of the witness interviews, the first thing I do is upload them and get them transcribed. And then I can search for common names, search for common dates, and you get, just like any, PDF, you get a list of all the hits, and it's a lead generator, and it connects the dots. And within weeks of this new semester, that is what happened in this criminology class. They did what 3 decades of investigators could not do. They saw a pattern.
And what they found, Claire, was that Janie Perkins was not just a jealous friend. She was pinpointed as the weak point in the entire case file. The interviews, the alibi gaps, her own statements. Really, that was the pattern they found.
Yeah, it was all adding up. And what was really important, this is something that Arlington PD had missed, is that multiple witnesses told police back in the 90s that Janie admitted involvement in the murder. She actually told multiple people that she had done it. And she provided details that investigators had never released publicly.
I do think that's pretty important. So when someone confesses and mentions details that only the killer or law enforcement would know, that is called evidence. And sure, you could go back and look at her polygraphs. They're not admissible in court. She voluntarily did them. She failed them. She did admit to wanting Cynthia to die, but that seems so outlandish, right? For a killer to say, yeah, I wanted her dead. I mean, they clearly just hadn't connected all these dots.
Yeah, it's so incredible to think that the truth was out there hiding in these documents and had never been properly analyzed and organized and the dots connected, because this isn't like, oh, they did some new DNA testing. This is information that could have been put together that long ago. I mean, criminal knowledge of the crime scene, of the murder, that's basic investigative stuff. You always have holdback information that the public does not know about the victim. And the idea that Janie was going around running her mouth, telling people these things, and they remembered it and reported it to police. I mean, this is what you want to happen in an investigation. You want people to come forward, say, hey, I don't know if this is important or not, but I remember that Janie said XYZ, right? And they have no idea if what they're giving the police is valuable information or total nonsense, which, I think, considering there hadn't been an arrest, I'm sure they thought, well, I guess it wasn't important what she said. I guess it didn't have anything to do with her murder, right?
Right.
Imagine their shock when they realized that, wow, I I was the key to this case, and my information, they just sat on it for 30 years.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. So the students were allowed to ask questions of the detectives. And so there's just like this dialogue going on between this criminology class and Arlington Police Department. And so they asked them, why was Janie Perkins never pursued harder as a suspect? Why weren't these witness statements compared against the evidence? And I think I'm as surprised and delighted as anyone to find out that they actually listened, Susan.
They did. They went back, they reopened every page, they recompared every detail. And the statements, turns out, they matched the physical evidence enough to demonstrate probable cause.
Yeah, this is huge, right? The idea that something that these students picked up on, law enforcement felt like they had investigative value, that they could put this before a court and say, we have probable cause to arrest this person. So here we go. It's November 6th, 2025, and the U.S. Marshals North Texas Fugitive Task Force finds 63-year-old Janie Perkins in Azle, Texas, which is a suburb of Fort Worth. And you have to think she did not see this coming, Susan.
I think deep down she must have,
Yeah.
You wait for that knock on the door, maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's what happens in the movies, where you wait for the knock on the door because it's coming one day. I don't know.
I think she probably thought she'd gotten away with it at this point. I mean, 10 years go by, 20, 30. I don't know.
Is there a statute of limitations in Texas?
Not on murder, Susan.
Wonderful.
No statute of limitations on murder.
As it should be.
Right.
So she is actually charged with capital murder. She's held and then released on a $150,000 bond pending trial.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. I'm like, she's already been free for 34 years and we're just going to let her go like in 24 hours. Like she was barely held at the Tarrant County Jail. I was shocked, actually, because I'm sure that they looked into her and felt like she wasn't a flight risk for whatever reasons, could be health reasons, financial resources. But either way, she's in and out in 24 hours of jail, charged with capital murder. I'm telling you, many people do not get this quote unquote lucky. I think the fact that she's a woman, the fact that she's in her 60s,
right,
probably had a lot to do with it. Because I'm telling you, the average person charged with capital murder, it's not walking back through those doors in 24 hours. That's just not happening.
Especially, I guess it's implied with the term capital, but the gruesome nature, the whole thing, this isn't like a hit and run accident. This is like intentional and execution and
right. So the capital murder, it implies not only intent, but like that there was another felony going on. So we don't have the full picture of what they're alleging, happened, but the idea that either some theft, assault occurred, some type of exchange that escalated it to another felony charge. I've seen aggravated assault charges. It could be anything like that. And then the murder, of course, or it could be something after the murder, like concealing a human corpse, tampering with evidence. Any of those can cause it to be a capital case, but that is rare. Capital murder, it is the highest form of murder and the most serious charge eligible for the death penalty, Susan. Yeah. So the idea that she's out on bond, I'm still shaking my head. It's so weird to me. If it was just first degree murder, not to lessen the impact of first degree murder, but if it was first degree murder, I could see $150,000 bond and she's let out. But capital murder? It's weird.
It's a biggie. I also, sidebar, really want to know if she ended up with the boyfriend after Cynthia was murdered.
I completely agree. I really wish his name was made public, but Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what happened to that romantic relationship. They're in their 20s, so
Yeah.
if they did stick together, then yeah,
Who
they
knows?
would have. Yeah, sometimes that's the way you do it. You marry your alibi. So we'll
Mhm.
see. We'll see what happens. But the Arlington police chief, Al Jones, went on the record and said, I don't think any of us expected lightning to strike the first time. The idea that this is the first case they've ever given into this program with the criminology department, and they solved the case. I mean, talk about big shoes to fill. Next semester, I hope they're ready to solve another cold case.
I hope these students get handed more. I mean, the semester open. I guess the semester is probably over by now, but they didn't just help. They cracked the case wide open.
Yeah, they should have jobs. This should be the new cold case unit. These 15 students graduating.
Yes.
Can we get a grant and hire them as the cold case unit at the Arlington Police Department,
Yes.
please?
Yes. Yes. If you're listening, Arlington Police Department, think about it.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's talk about what this case says about policing, about resources, and about the role of fresh eyes.
Yeah, because like you said at the beginning, some cold cases go unsolved because they're unsolvable. I mean, there's various reasons, including funding,
Yep.
procedural roadblocks. Original investigators either ran out of hours, leads, or got distracted with other cases that came across their desk that were maybe easier to solve or took precedence. I mean, there's so many reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think about how serious these students took their classwork and the idea that they truly believe that the answer to Cynthia's murder might be somewhere in a stack of files. It's encouraging in this dark world of true crime that we live in, Susan. It's
Mhm.
really nice to see this kind of story.
And I'm thrilled that the Arlington detectives were open to it, were, didn't get defensive, and now they're
Right.
revisiting other materials they'd long assumed led nowhere. So, just a re-examination brought a long dormant confession back into focus. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a win for everybody, right? This is a win for the police department, for the criminology class, and of course for Cynthia's family.
That's right. Her mother was murdered when she was 6.
Yeah,
Her
Cynthia's daughter. Yes.
her daughter and, her this is really a legacy. Her
Yeah.
daughter got to get up there and personally thank a group of strangers, who
Yeah.
are younger than she is at this point, and they gave her something she thought she'd never get, which is justice, a chance at justice anyway.
Yes, of course. Yeah, the trial is still on the horizon, and Janie Perkins is presumed innocent until proven guilty. She will have her day in court, and that's absolutely what this case deserves. So we will get to see everything out in the public eye. Hopefully, Susan. I don't know. A lot of these cases end in plea deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the first time in 34 years, Cynthia Gonzalez's case has momentum.
It does. And that's wonderful news because Cynthia didn't get to grow old. She didn't get to see her daughter go through all of life's stages, and she didn't get to decide what her life could become.
Yes, but because a new generation refused to accept that this case was unsolvable, her story gets a new chapter.
That's right. So thanks for joining us for this uplifting, I guess the trial's still pending, but uplifting movement in a cold case. And we'll be back next week with an all new case.
Justice Pending is recorded in Dallas, Texas for Rebel Studios. It's hosted by me, Claire Sanama, and Susan Passoni. Our theme music is Bending Truth, licensed at premiumbeat.com. We appreciate all listener feedback. Leave a review wherever you're listening right now, and we might read it on the air. Thanks for joining us.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.